Meanwhile, lawyers of Mahmoud Khalil are calling for their client's immediate release, saying he faces severe harm by possibly missing the birth of his child. The pro-Palestinian activist and Columbia student was arrested by ICE agents in connection to protests on the university campus last year. Now, Khalil is a legal U.S. resident with a green card. He's of Palestinian descent, and in New York, nearly 100 protesters were arrested after a sit-in at Trump Tower. A group called Jewish Voice for Peace led the demonstration. The Trump administration calls Khalil a Hamas sympathizer, even accusing him of handing out Hamas propaganda. The government is basing their attempt to deport him on the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the Secretary of State to deport someone they believe could harm U.S. foreign policy interests.
This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason. But I think being a supporter of Hamas and coming into our universities and turning them upside down and being complicit in what are clearly crimes of vandalization, complicit in shutting down learning institutions. If you told us that's what you intended to do when you came to America, we would have never let you in. And if you do it once you get in, we're going to revoke it and kick you out.
All right, let's get right to CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano. She's outside Columbia University. Lilia, what's the scene like there now? Are there more protesters?
There are a few hundred protesters who you can't really see right behind me because they're over there further down the street. There's a lot of police presence. They're barricaded within the sidewalk with a great deal of NYPD officers all around. We heard them chanting earlier. There's really only one counter protester who I can see from here. We are awaiting this protest was scheduled for about 1:30, so I mean East Coast time. So it's really kind of the beginning of it. So we expect that it will continue and it might grow in the coming hours. There's also a 3 p.m. press conference from Khalil's attorneys who we're hoping that they will update us on the latest in that case that they're presenting, where they're alleging that it was unconstitutional, the arrest first, and fighting back against this notion that Mahmoud Khalil was a supporter of Hamas. They have challenged the government to provide any evidence that he in any way supported Hamas. They're saying that he's being punished for speaking out and for protesting, for pro-Palestinian protests that happened here and that we covered last year. They're also asking for him to be brought to New York. What the government is saying is they're trying to move the case, the jurisdiction of the case, to either New Jersey or Louisiana. So we're waiting to hear what's the latest on those developments. But here on campus, we are feeling the tensions rising from faculty members that I've talked to, students that I've talked to, because last night DHS federal agents came into student housing looking for students to arrest. What we learned this morning was that one student self-deported, according to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, using an app from CPB. And another one was arrested. It's a student who is a Palestinian and a student who they're saying, according to the government, was part of the protest, and they're saying that in a similar way of the accusations against Khalil, that she also supported Hamas. But this is a student very different from Khalil. In Khalil's case, he is a green card holder, a permanent legal resident of the United States, married to an American citizen. In this case, what DHS is saying and the information that they're releasing about this other student is that this is a student who overstayed, who had an expired visa. So this is something where it seems that the government, has already had perhaps the authority to remove the student. We're still, of course, waiting on more details and hoping to hear about any other developments that happen in terms of what the government is doing here in Columbia. Another thing that happened last night, another thing that we learned, is that the government is trying to pressure the university to abide by a list of demands before the government decides to enter into negotiations to restore those $400 million in federal funding that they had suspended from the university. Those include banning masks. They include giving the Office of the President of Columbia University basically the sole authority over disciplining students, over expelling students or suspending them. And they're also asking that the university, quote unquote, implement their discipline against the students who participated either in the occupation of Hamilton Hall or even in the encampments, according to the documents. We do know that yesterday the university announced that they had expelled or suspended for a long period of time the students who had occupied Haskell Hall. And if you can listen, it seems like now, once again, the protest chants are starting behind us. I don't know if you can see some of it, but they're happening right here. We're seeing a Palestinian flag, and we are seeing that the students, just like it happened last year, they're barricaded within a very limited area, a few hundred of them, of that sidewalk here in Columbia, in front of Columbia University.
We can't see them.
Continue reporting as more information comes out.
Yeah, we can't see them, but we can certainly
hear them.
Yes. Well, I know you're going to keep an eye on it for us. Thank you so much, Lilia, outside Columbia University. But let's get to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, Khalil's lawyers say he may miss the birth of his own child. Does the justice system consider personal milestones like that when determining pretrial release?
So to the extent that this is about pretrial release and it's about a question of whether or not he's a flight risk, for instance, or a potential harm to the community, then yes, you can consider a life event like whether or not he would be likely to leave and miss the birth of his child. Now, we also know that when it comes to scheduling in general, when it comes to scheduling trials, while the justice system does need to continue and it can't pause for everything, we know that judges certainly consider major life events as well. So this isn't just about sympathy.
So we're also learning, Jessica, the Department of Homeland Security searched 2 students' rooms last night on Columbia's campus, on their actual university campus. Any legal issues around that, given that it may be different because these rooms were on a university campus? It wasn't a private residence, right?
Right. So the main legal question here would be whether or not there was a proper search warrant. And I haven't seen any indication that there wasn't. In order for the Department of Homeland Security to be able to do what they did, they would need a search warrant. It would have to be executed by a federal magistrate. They would have to come to that federal magistrate and say, we have probable cause. That's why we get to go in and search this particular place. I think you asked a really good question about the difference between basically a dorm room and a private residence. And what I would say is if the probable cause is there, I'm being very general, but if the probable cause is there, then the Department of Homeland Security can come in. In many ways, a dorm room is, at least while school is in session, considered at least a quasi private residence.
So would the university then, because it's a quasi-private residence, have to give permission to the Department of Homeland Security?
I don't think that they would, given that it's just like if you think about a landlord, if a tenant, for instance, is in a situation where the Department of Homeland Security or law enforcement can get a warrant because there's probable cause, you don't need to first ask the landlord.
I want to get to this, too. A congressional committee is asking Columbia to hand over disciplinary records of some of its students. A group of students, including Mahmoud Khalil, are suing to prevent this. How is this going to play out?
Well, we know that what the students will likely argue is that there's something called FERPA violations. So FERPA is an acronym of a federal law. It deals with students' privacy. And it's something that I deal with. For instance, I don't leave my seating chart out because there's some privacy when it comes to who's in my class and where they sit, and particularly when it comes to student records. So legally, how will this play out? I think the students will claim that there is, again, a violation of this federal statute dealing with their privacy rights. I think that they could claim that there isn't the congressional power to do this, that there's a congressional authorization issue, and maybe also some due process concerns as well.
You know, so much at the core of this is the right to free speech. Could the outcome of this case impact what free speech is in the U.S.?
That's such a good question in the sense of, will this be a precedent-setting case? And I'm going to give the honest answer, which is this very early in the case, and it really depends. Obviously, what Khalil is arguing is he's being targeted based on lawful conduct, which is what he is saying. And we know if the First Amendment protects anything, it's we don't want to punish people based on either the subject matter of the speech or their viewpoint. Having said that, there is this statute that is still on the books. It's a very old immigration statute. It's not typically used in this situation. And it gives the Secretary of State broad power to say, you present, I'm paraphrasing here, essentially a national security problem. So in terms of will this create new First Amendment precedent, I think it depends on how this case proceeds and which framing a judge adopts when it comes to First Amendment or national security.
So many issues with this case. Thank you so much, Jessica, for helping us break it all down.